Thank you for joining the Professional Quotient podcast, Conversations that Build Equity. These conversations are meant to really lift people up and help them put their best foot forward in the professional world. And it's brought to you by our sponsor, MarketScale, who does the same thing for companies around the globe, helping them put their best foot forward by turning their subject matter experts into content creators. So be sure to check them out. And now, we are going to have a conversation that builds equity with a very special guest. Welcome to Professional Quotient, or PQ. I'm your host, Jason Winningham, and today we have a very special guest, Alexandria. Alexandria, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Absolutely, Jason. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandria Skeete, if you're looking for me on LinkedIn, Alexandria Teresa, if you are looking for me as an author. So a little bit about me. I'm a culture strategist by training or by day and an author by passion. And I'm currently a senior manager of org development and culture strategy. And I recently published a book, well, maybe not so recent anymore, titled Beyond How Are You? Mastering the Art of Meaningful Greetings. And when I'm not doing that, I am helping authors along their journey.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And when I very first met you was right after you had published your book, Beyond How Are You? And I got so excited because this was a book that I felt like you somehow knew what I needed and started writing it before we met. It's filled with really helpful tips and tricks about engaging conversations beyond just saying, how are you? And then walking along past people. So I'd love to first start with what led you into wanting to write that book?
Oh, it's a mix of a few things, which I know you've read about in the book, but for everyone listening, I have been writing for as long as I can remember. My mom is a writer, and I loved language arts in school. So a big part of my journey started off with writing poetry, and then it transitioned to journaling as a teen and well into my adult years. And then as far as publishing this book, there was a big transition in my career life, aka I had been laid off from my job of almost 8 years and was in this program focused on positive psychology. We had to do a final project, and I was like, okay, at this point in my life, if I'm going to do a final project, like I want it to be something that can be shared out into the world. And in this period of experiencing this layoff, I was feeling a lot of things. And when people, especially those closest to me, asked how I was doing, I felt like it was, I wouldn't say too shallow of a question, but I felt like it was too big of a question and too small of a question. What I mean by that is I felt like there were so many different things I was feeling. Like I was in this program, which was a good thing. I was laid off and wondering where money was coming from, which was a not so good thing. But there's also more specific questions that I thought that people who knew me could ask. And so I combined all of those things kind of like a perfect storm and ended up writing the draft for the book that you now hold in your hands.
I love that because it takes the almost craziness that's happening in life and you kind of put purpose to it, and not just for yourself then, but then for others. And that's a really cool thing. So you shared that you're doing a job on top of being an author, or an author on top of being a job. I don't know which to say which. So when you're doing all of the above, what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, that's a fun one. So a typical day is the job that I show up for, which is serving clients as a org development and culture strategist. So I have multiple clients. I do work for a larger company, a global company, and have continued to do so throughout my journey. So lots of meetings, lots of listening to clients, hearing what's going on with them, hearing how I can support and how we can partner. And then by night, it's, connecting with those on LinkedIn, fulfilling orders for my books, looking through requests in my author inbox, I guess you can say, as well as supporting other authors along their journey. So I might have some evening or weekend sessions where I'm working directly with writers who are aspiring authors and want to learn more about what it takes to get their book from idea to actually a published product that people can hold in their hands.
That's awesome, and it sounds like a lot. It sounds like you could be, in effect, just going, going, going at all hours of the day. So let me ask you this.
Mm.
You put time blocks. How do you manage your schedule so that you don't get to burnout?
Oh, that's a good one. And I can't say that I have always been the best at it, and I'm still not the
Me
best
either.
at
That's why I'm asking. I need advice.
So one thing is within the past year, and I would say I've always been pretty physically active, but I make sure I get to the gym 4 times a week and focus on weight training. And every time I go to the gym, there's a bit of cardio involved. And the days I'm not going in the gym, I am walking. And even, I would say, even when I do go to the gym, it's a really good break for me after my day job to go for a mile walk outside. It's like my way of taking off my day job hat and kind of just being in my body for a moment before I decide whatever else is going to happen for the evening, whether that's going into author and author strategist mode, or whether it's pivoting and just deciding maybe to read or just take a break for the night.
Hmm. That makes total sense. And I appreciate that. And thank you for giving that unscripted question. Sorry, I just threw that one at you, but it just made me think as you were saying that. And especially as somebody who can resonate with doing a whole lot, like
Mhm.
there's sometimes that can be challenging to keep going, and or even to pause for a minute and just
Yeah.
reflect. So I love that you're stating that intention of going out and getting that walk and taking that 9 to 5 hat off and before
Mhm.
you put on that creative, yeah, entrepreneurial hat. So that's
Yes.
very cool. Now you mentioned that your mother's a writer too. So I'm always curious what influences people to get into the work that they do. Would you say
Yeah.
your mom was the main influence, or did you have other influences for being an author?
Yes, I would say a I was going to say big or main influence just because I knew that being an author was possible because she had published multiple books. When I was a child, she had published a few poetry books. So that was, again, the influence on me being passionate about poetry. And then in my adult years, she has published a children's series called Amira's Animals that focuses on this little girl as she explores the world and travel and experiencing animals. And so it was helpful to have someone in my life that had gone through the publishing process and what it was like to work with an illustrator. So yeah, definitely a big influence. And then I have, of course, many other influences from just a kind of a corporate perspective. And even I have someone who I would call my friend who is the chief marketing officer for this wonderful gifting company called Lupin Tie. And it's really inspiring just seeing how she does her messaging. Because I'm not a marketing professional, right? But as a part of being an author, it's also about the creativity is used for how you get the word out there about your book. And so that's another aspect that I didn't really, that a lot of people don't necessarily consider when they're thinking about putting their words on paper and sharing them out with the world.
I would imagine when you are getting ready to publish, there might be a little apprehension because of what you just said. You're putting your words down to paper. And then once you hit publish, though, and this is where I'm adding in my thoughts to it, that's final, 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 final. It's out there. So did you have a moment like that? And if you did, I'm curious what got you to just say, yep, This is where it's at. It's perfect. Let's send it out to the world.
You know, it's funny. When I was originally thinking about the book, I had a deadline in mind. So I had a date that I wanted the book to be published, and I worked backwards from there. It wasn't until I had my virtual, like official launch party that I got emotional because I was like, oh my goodness, there are all these people from different aspects of my life that showed up on that call. And it became really real that I was putting something out there uh, that people hadn't experienced, that side of me before. It's so permanent. So, yeah, I definitely can understand and have felt those feelings, but I would encourage anyone to not let that stop you.
Awesome. Love
Yeah.
that. And so here within this podcast, we really
Mhm.
focus on the professional quotient,
Mhm.
which in my definition of this is how we're utilizing our professional equity, which is our
Mhm.
personal portfolio of skills, knowledge, experiences, education, and community. What would you say is the most valuable to you within your portfolio of professional equity?
That's a good one that I have a few answers for.
Sure. Yes.
My first would be people, and I can't help but to say that I think in the profession that I'm in, the multiple professions I'm in, people are the greatest asset to an organization, to a career, to an individual. Just hearing people's stories, as you recognize, right, as the host of this chat and podcast, it's really inspiring what you can glean from other people that have walked similar journeys that you either want to go on or that have walked a totally different journey that is just for whatever reason different and inspiring and can help you think differently. So I have to say people is my number one. My second would be, of course, asking questions, asking the right questions, being curious. So just leading with that curiosity around people or a process. And then lastly, I would just say I think it's tied to curiosity. It's continually seeking that learning, right? So whether it's a conference or it's a book or a certification program, just continually seeking those out and being okay with them being an investment, because I know sometimes we can look at the price tag and be like, oh, that's out of my reach. But considering either making the investment or looking for alternates that are maybe free, like there's so many resources out there. So those would be my three.
Awesome, awesome. And there's no wrong answer with those within each of our portfolios. The why I like to ask it is because it really highlights within different people's professions what they might value the most, at least at that point in their time. And the reality is they're all valuable and they're all going to
Mhm.
help us at more times more than others. You did mention like going to conferences and big things like that. Is it easy for you to self promote within, hey, I'm an author, here's my book? Or is that something you have to kind of work up the nerve to do? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, I would say it's easy for me, Jason.
Yeah. Okay.
I would definitely say it's easy for me because I mean, what it's it's kind of like I'm gonna miss this phrase, but like what good is a lamp if you like put a blanket over it, right? So if you have a light to shine and you have something to share with this world that you believe is valuable, then why not? And so I really believe that the gifts that God has given me are valuable to share. And so in that, I can't help but to say, oh, hey, my name is Alexandria and I am the author of this book, especially in networking situations when people are nervous or don't know what to say or ask, or coming out of a period where we were all shut up in our homes and didn't interact with new people as often. Yeah, I can't help but to share.
Okay. And the reason I asked that for our audience to know is just because I literally met you at a networking event and you were literally talking with people about your book. And I just got so excited to see that and hear that. But I was curious because for me, if I were to finally be published, because I have been working on a book for quite a while, to be honest. I don't know that I am more the type that will prepare a lamp, get the light bulb in place, plug it in, and then have a blanket over it, and just say, well, if anybody wants it, they can take the blanket off. I'm not as good at the self promotion part. And so I was just curious, and I know some of that is the way we're wired, and some people have an easier time when you're outside and outside when you're touching the grass, so to speak, and meeting other people face to face. So yeah, let's thank you for sharing. I certainly was impressed the way in which you were doing it when I met you. So
Yeah, no, thank you for that one. Thank you. I know this isn't my podcast, but I would love to dig in that some more. There are definitely people who do the promotion far better than I do. And I wouldn't even call it self promotion, right? Because it's not necessarily about me. It's about the service or the product that I can potentially provide someone who may need it. And those that are greater at this than I am, I learn from them, right? So one of the things that has stuck with me is reframing the mindset of like, oh, want to, I'm like nervous about sharing this offering or product or service and saying, like, who am I not to, right? Like, who am I to keep this to myself when there are people out there who can benefit from it? So if you think about like energy flows, right? Like, who am I to hold this energy and prevent this good energy from being shared with those around me who might need it? And part of it too comes in the belief, right, that what you have to offer is to help others. And I think the shift is when we do things, not doing them just for the money, right, just for the financial gain, but doing them because we really believe that they can serve others. I would like to believe that the wealthiest people in this world have gotten wealthy because they have decided that they want to serve, and they want to serve as many people as possible. Now, we know that's not always the case, but it's a belief that I like to hold.
it's certainly a belief that helps it, like, you do what you do for sure, and being able to promote what it is that you've been able to work on. So I appreciate that advice, and that's really good things to keep in mind, because even within this podcast, each of the conversations, the mission is really to help those that are navigating the professional landscape. Very specifically, I started it with the neurodivergent community in mind, thinking I started off not knowing very much about what all is out there and what's available, and hearing people throw out titles like I'm a consultant, I'm a vice president, I'm a this, I'm a that, and just still not having any clue what any of those things meant. And so even within this podcast, sharing it, there are times when I feel like, oh, I'm blowing up LinkedIn today, but it is something where I'm trying to share a resource so that people can find it if they're looking and it can be helpful. So I really like the way you frame that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And to your point, even just having this podcast and the amount of vulnerability you have to show and share as a host, like, that's not lost on your viewers and listeners.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just kind of an open book. So vulnerability has never been an issue. I just say things. And then afterwards, I might think, like, should I have said that much? Oh, well.
Oh, well, it's hilarious.
Oh, well,
That
is
might need to
all I
be
could do in life.
that might need to be like a patch or a pin or like a baseball cap. Oh, well.
Absolutely. Oh, well. Keep going. Well, within the professional landscape, this is something that we all have challenges. We've all have different kinds of challenges. And I like to focus on that, not because, oh, great, here's some challenges in the workplace, but
Mhm.
because each of us has overcome challenges or circumnavigated them in
Yeah.
our own unique ways. And so I would love to ask if there's any challenges that you'd feel comfortable sharing with us to help empower anybody that's listening that might have similar ones.
Yeah. So, in vulnerability or in authenticity, we talked a little bit about, you mentioned self promotion or just getting the word out there. I have not been as active on social media as I have been in the past, and I am wrestling with social media use in general, because it not to say because it's a saturated market, but because partly because it's a saturated market, with the use of AI, I feel like the same stories are kind of being shared, but just also the just that marketing aspect of kind of, as we talk about marketing my book on social media, I think I know that I can be doing a lot more. And it's just really been a struggle to invest the time and energy to develop that strategy and carry it through. I have, like a book account TikTok, but I really don't enjoy using TikTok because, one, I'm an Instagram girly, but two, I've seen how much time Instagram has taken, right? And I don't want that to transfer over to TikTok. And I've seen how it can suck you in, right? So navigating how I balance the personal boundary, like my personal use of social media, but also don't put a blanket over the lamp that is the pocketbook Beyond How Are You, when I know that one, one of my goals is that it reaches as many people as possible, but two, right, the fact that I believe that it is a helpful tool. So that's one of the big challenges right now.
It is a challenge, and I've gone through a similar period in a former life. I hosted a YouTube channel called Green Tip Guy where I did sustainability tips, and I enjoyed it. I pushed a lot of, because in my mind it was all about showing people that little things add up. So it's not about spending $1 million upgrading your house to make it super efficient. It's about, okay, are you sorting your things? Are you cutting your plastic rings that come on your 6-pack cans or whatnot, or not getting can, like it's all the little steps. And at a certain point, I was just looking at social media and just thinking it's depressing, especially for me, a certain one. I don't want to be naming names, but where everybody's just telling everybody else their opinions, and it just kind of got to where I took like a several year break where I was like, you know what, I'm kind of done. And even with this podcast, I remember as I was asked to consider starting it, I was thinking to myself, doesn't like every other person have a podcast now? Isn't this the most saturated market? And then I thought, but just because everybody else is saturating something out there doesn't mean that you can't still be adding a valuable thought, a valuable tool. Like this book that you wrote is a valuable tool. And to those that get it and have it in their pocket, that's something that can help them. And it doesn't matter that there's a million other books out in the world. It doesn't matter, like, because this is a good one. So I just want to say thank you for putting it out there, even though that is a challenge. And then when it comes to social media, I was only going to share before I went on this tangent, sorry, that the way I kind of handle it now, because here I am doing this podcast and I need to put out teasers and I need to be active, is I kind of set a rule for myself of, you're going to go on LinkedIn, you're going to promote something you've done, like this podcast. You are going to go cheerleader champion at least 10 people in what they're doing. So be sure to go do that, and then get out of Dodge. Like sign out, go away, get away from it, because it is a suck. Like it just draws you in. Social media is so good at that, like keeping your attention. And I can't go down that rabbit hole for too long. So that's kind of my way of dealing with that a little bit, is my little parameters that I sometimes fail at, but they're what I try to keep me going.
Okay, those were good. So you said you go on to share something that you've accomplished
Mm-hmm.
and to celebrate something you've accomplished. And then the second one is that you celebrate or promote 10 other people in your network. Those were
Mm-hmm.
the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And well, the third is that you get off.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But to me, LinkedIn is my preferred social media just because this is where people are talking about what they do for their profession. And for me, that means you cut out a lot of the other stuff you might get on the more fun
Mm-hmm.
website or social medias. And because I'm not fun, so I'm on the one that's not fun. No.
Are you sure? Are
Yeah.
you sure?
Yeah. But I love because when people are sharing what they're doing, we do have the opportunity to like, to do a comment, to share it, to
Mhm.
re-promote it. And that to me is our virtual way of lifting each other up. And to me, that's what life is about is hey, we're all in a struggle just living. So let's
Mhm.
lift each other up, clap for each other, and cheer each other on. And so for me, that's kind of how I've adopted it because
Yeah.
I did feel the same about social media. It is a saturation and it is a time suck. I don't know how else to put it. And I don't like saying that word, but that's what it is.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, are there things that you have done to kind of keep yourself going, even though you felt those things about social media?
In full transparency, right now, no. I have not posted much on social media and I have some content. So, one thing I'm doing is I am keeping a mental log of the content that I do have to share. So, I started off the year pretty good about posting on LinkedIn from my personal career perspective as well as from the book perspective. I did go ahead and I think add a few new people to my books LinkedIn page a week ago. So slowly but surely, because you can limit. There's a limit to how many people you can add to your professional page per month. But I'd skipped I think 2 or 3 months in doing that. So it's my book is always in the back of my mind, so I don't completely fall off on promoting it. And sometimes it's more of I find that I'm pretty good in real life, promotion. So
Oh, I know you are. I know you are. Yes.
thank you, Jason. So yeah, there's a balance. Even though I might not be online, I'm
Hmm.
definitely doing some stuff offline. Like I met someone at a networking event who has a beautiful gifting company, uh, Dragonfly, and so I we met up, and so now my books will be a part of some of her gift boxes or gift
Mm.
bags. So yeah, stuff like that is where I find true joy as far as like the networking and the promotion aspect.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, when it comes to professional quotient as well, most of us are not stagnant. Most of us are always kind of building something, increasing it.
Yeah.
So, are there activities that you do that help raise your PQ?
Yeah, so one of them is taking risk. And when I say taking risk, it's doing something that I might not necessarily feel comfortable with, but doing it sometimes because someone else has advocated for me. So um, I think we all have our limit, right, as far as like pushing ourselves. But if someone else, and I'll just use the corporate world, for example, if there's a managing director that wants to bring me on to a project, and this has happened a couple of times where I'm like, okay, this is either beyond my expertise or beyond what I know how to do. But because they've specifically asked of me to do this thing, I'm like, okay, well, they believe that I can do it. And trusting that and moving forward, I think that's one of the ways that helps me kind of move my own goalposts whenever my whenever I guess my audacity or my willingness to grow has either run out or is just in a period of pause.
Hmm. I like that. And I understand. I feel like within every role, when I read a description, I immediately have the imposter syndrome voice tell me all the little checklists of that role that I don't know, am not capable of doing. And I have to tell myself if I'm going to apply for it or if I'm going to consider that role, that A, I can learn it, B, people are reaching out and sharing it, that role too. So it's okay. So obviously there's something that where you can do it. uh, do you have to mentally prep talk yourself and build what I like to call a reposture voice that tells you everything that's the opposite of the imposter voice? Do you do that, or are you just kind of a, all right, I acknowledge it and move on, like I'm gonna move anyway?
Yeah, so it might be a breath prayer. So I'm big on prayer. And when it's not that, or in addition to that, it's the mantra, I can do hard things. I've done hard things in the past. I can do hard things again.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. Yes. Definitely, obviously, I resonate with that a lot. In fact, so much so that on the albums that I'm creating that are based off of each podcast episode, there's one that's called the Reposture Voice. And there's even a line in there that says, I've done hard things and I'll do more. Like that's, and it's something that, because I think that's something that really a lot of people struggle with. And we look at it and think, wow, everybody else seems to do things so easily. When the reality is, maybe it isn't.
No, it's not. Well, for some people, I will say, Jason, for some people, I think depending on just their upbringing and their environment, it does come naturally for them to just go, 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 believe, believe, believe. Um, I always think of things as a normal curve. So you've got some people that are on one edge, and then you've got other people that are on the opposite end. But I believe most of us fall in that middle ground of like, sometimes we feel like we have it, and sometimes we need a little push and a little reminder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what do you do when you need that reminder?
So prayer is a big one.
Hmm.
The other big one is leaning on my support system. So my family and my friends to remind me of either who I am, what my strengths are, or ways that I've overcome in the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. When it comes to being an author, is there any
Mhm.
advice you would give someone if they're just starting out, or maybe they've begun drafting a book, or like myself, they have something that was written like almost a year ago and they just continually to revise it and edit it because it's not perfect enough?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend.
Are you that friend? Are you my special friend? Yeah. So I love that you asked that question because I do have some advice, and I actually have a free guide on my website that gives some of that advice. It's the kind of the pocketbook path. So it's a downloadable guide of like all of the steps to take on your author journey. I don't know if I should say all, but a good amount at least to provide clarity around, okay, what does this process look like to determine publishing, how I get started, how long the book should be. So yeah, I learned by trial and error, but I would say that there is a process that you can follow. And sometimes people just need, like you said, a friend to help them along the journey. So someone to encourage them of like, hey, we have this deadline, right? That we said that we were going to meet where we would be halfway through the book. So one of the big ones is setting deadlines. So if you know what you want to write and you know how long you want the book that you're writing to be, then work your way backwards with the outline and write in chunks and literally sit yourself down and say, I am going to write this chapter today or these two chapters today and put it on the calendar. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Additionally, and this is something I like all of our guests to have during this time, is a moment to spotlight, highlight anything that they would like. Is there anything that you would like to give us? Before you do, I'm sorry. You said that I could find that writing guide on your website. That's alexandriateresa.com.
Yes, it is alexandriateresa.com, and Teresa is Theresa.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. So back to your spotlight. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I've said that because I heard you mention your website and I wanted to give a call out to that. But now your spotlight, not mine.
No, I appreciate that, and we can just continue that conversation. So, on my website, there is a tab where you can work with me, and I do still help, organizations. So, if you are a startup or you have just a small company and you are looking for culture strategy or org development or talent strategy support, I can help there. If you are an individual kind of just trying to figure out your career story, if you're maybe up for promotion and you need to essentially promote yourself, I've helped plenty of people figure out what that story is and how to position themselves. And then lastly, and probably the one that I am most passionate about for the context of this call, is working with aspiring authors. And I mentioned the guide, the pocketbook path that you can download. So if you go to work with me and you scroll down to the bottom, there's a big plum button that says download the PDF guide that you can use, print out. It has a section that you can write out some thoughts and ideas in. And then if you're interested in working with me, I do have a few options. So whether that's you just want to roadmap out your journey, whether you are stuck and have some writer's block, or whether you want support throughout your journey from outline to finding a publisher to work with, I am happy to support.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Alexandria.
Thank you for having me, Jason. It truly has been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of these songs and maybe if ours becomes a song, bopping along to that.
I may end up giving you like two different versions to pick from because
Ooh.
I end up creating more than one, and then I jam to them for a little while to decide which one am I really feeling more than the other. And so most of this has been all just for me, and it wasn't
Mhm.
until last week that I decided, hey, why not share this out widely? So now that I'm doing that, I'm probably going to seek my guests' input on which one's the better songs that I
How
raised.
fun. I'm
So
excited.
stay tuned. Well, appreciate it so much. So glad, and thank you for writing this book that really has been helpful to me. I've used it, so I can't recommend it enough to, especially to my neurodivergent community.
Mm,
Beyond how are you? There's just so much good stuff there. So
thank
thank you.
you. Thank you
Um,
so much, Jason.
Absolutely. And to our audience, I just want to remind you that if you've enjoyed this conversation, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It goes a long way. And also remember that unlike our IQ or our EQ, we can really easily raise our PQ every single day. Just keep learning, growing, and connecting. Until next time.